Hi, Madonna, United Kingdom. It's Kevin Stay again. All right, so your next questions. Um, I saw an interview online where you reflected on Gabriel, and it was very moving. He sounded like a very important friend to you, and was indeed a beautiful looking man. Was he your closest friend on the tour? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Gabriel and I knew each other from before. We had done jobs together. We traveled together. We went to Vegas for the first time together. I knew his boyfriend. I had been to his house. He'd been to mine. We saw each other at auditions. Um, we weren't super close before that. We were already friends. But once we were on tour, he was definitely my best friend on tour. Um, he was a wonderful guy, like a really wonderful guy. He, yeah. When you say he's a beautiful man, yeah, he was a beautiful man inside and out. Both. I miss him a lot. And for those of you who don't know, Gabriel passed away in '95 in November. Um, On to more uplifting things. Although it is lovely to remember him, so I can't even say that it's a bad thing to remember him. I love remembering Gabriel. Um, can you remember the first show, and what are your memories? The first show, well, our first we had friends and family shows here in Los Angeles at the Disney stage, where we had, agents and friends come in and watch the show specifically for them in a very small space, like, on the stage. There was maybe like 200 people there, 150 people. So it already felt like we kind of had done it already. But our first stage in Japan, the first official show, it still felt like a rehearsal. And she sort of treated it a little bit like a rehearsal, I think. Um, just because she knew most of them didn't understand what she was saying. Most of them, they were very polite and would clap no matter what, and it wasn't like nothing was going to be out of control. They're a very good audience to have in Japan. Um, but I was still in rehearsal mode, honestly. Like, I'm a perfectionist, so my attention in the show was not like, oh, this is electric. My attention was like, I gotta do this right. I gotta get this like perfect. Like, am I missing anything? Is this hard, or is it anything? Is it different from the rehearsal period to now? Is my performance exactly the same? I do have to say that it was really surprising how much energy the audience gives you. Like, it really they amp you up for sure. My energy level was going through the roof, uh, whereas before I was kind of a bit tired during rehearsals. Of course, we had more rest, thank God. Um, but I remember loving it. I remember loving being on stage. I remember loving having her around and seeing her light up on stage. It was really lovely. She, she some people put on a show, like you're outside of yourself. Well, it seems like I had a fun time watching her just be herself before, during, after. Like, even though she was giving you a show, she was still right there. She was giving herself for real, and I thought that was always very fun. So I know if I made eye contact with her inside the one of the numbers, it wasn't like she was so disconnected that she wouldn't even see me. She was right there. She knew where we all were. I like that. Um, Next question is, did you realize how iconic the tour was, and did it feel like something special at the time? I had no idea how iconic the tour was. Uh, Honestly, I didn't. Wasn't until we got to the U.S. that I even realized how popular she was. I had no idea. When we got to Europe and saw how crazy the fans were over there, I really had no concept of how big of a star she was. So I'd never been on another tour, so I didn't know. I didn't know what to compare it with. All I could see was. I mean, I know this sounds terrible, but for me, it was almost a consolation prize because I was like, oh, I really wanted to work with Janet Jackson. The Rhythm Nation tour. Oh my God, Rhythm Nation was the bomb. It was all dance. It was like what I, was listening to and studying and breaking down, and she's the whole reason why I started dancing. So for me, it was great to be on tour, but at the same time, I was like, I wish I could be over there. Now I'm like, oh, thank God I was on this tour. I mean, I really, I thought all tours would be like this, and it's obviously not the case. Um, but having this as a first tour, it definitely set my standard for everything else. Like, I sort of have an expectation of not perfection, but I have an expectation of excellence in everything I do and all the projects that I do. I didn't know honestly, I had no idea how iconic it would be. Um, if I loved everything we were doing. I think Vince's attention to meaning uh, into every piece really enhanced her own messages in her songs, and I think that's what makes it iconic. Is that there was such attention to story, there was such attention to theatrical arc, um, and that made it feel special. I didn't know how special at the time, and even I was more focused on the traveling. Um, Once I felt like I had gotten myself, perfect in my space and perfect in my spots and all that stuff. But then I was all about the travel and experiencing the world and getting to know these other guys. And things are, you never know how important things are when you're in the middle of them. It's just like life. You never know how important these moments are in life until you look back at them in retrospect. And in some way, every moment can be iconic and important to you. But it's some of these moments are particularly special just because they're iconic to everyone else too. um, so yeah, um, it felt special, but not nearly as special as I think it's turned out to be.